We're going to solve for a variable, but there's factorials in our question. So we have this quotient here, which is like a fraction, or a division question. We have n factorial is equal to n minus 2 factorial. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to simplify this side here. And then once we've simplified, we'll see what we can do to isolate and try to figure out what n is equal to. So like you drew before, we know that n factorial can be rewritten. It can be rewritten as n times n minus 1 times n minus 2, and then all the way down to the number 1. That's equal to 56. And then all of that is above n minus 2 times n minus 3, again, all the way down to the number 1. So because we have that in line for multiplication from the n minus 2, we know we can essentially eliminate all of this. Okay, so now that that is eliminated, all that is actually left is our n times n minus 1. So let's rewrite this question now. We have n multiplied by n minus 1 is equal to 56. Okay, it's a little better. Think of it like we have two terms, n times and then n minus 1. We'll think of that as its own term also. So kind of like we have two terms multiplied by each other here. Mm-hmm. There are so many options for 56. It's easier to figure out when something's equal to 0. Okay, so we're going to want to bring 56 to the other side. It won't help in this form, so I'm actually going to distribute this n. Okay, and what I'm going to create is what they call like a trinomial. So n times n is n squared, and then n times negative 1 is negative n. That's equal to 56. And then we're going to move 56 to the other side of the equation. And when I move 56, I'm going to get negative 56. So n minus 1 minus 56 is equal to 0. So now I have a trinomial. Okay, and this is where factoring comes in. If you recall your factoring from your grades before, this is kind of like you have an a value, a b value. That's your b, that's your a, and that's your c. And in this version, because the a is just technically the number 1, what you're looking for is two numbers that add up to b, to whatever our b term is, and those same two numbers need to multiply to whatever our c term is. So in our case, that is negative 1 is our b term, and negative 56 is our c term. So we need to think of numbers that add to negative 1 and multiply to negative 56. Well, there are so many numbers that add to negative 1. So let's try to think of some numbers that multiply to negative 56.
Oops.
I can give you two right off the bat. You want to try one or two? We know 2
yeah.
goes in.
It's got to be more like, it's going to be more like 6 or something. 7.
Okay, yeah, 6 or 7. Try 7.
Yeah, I think it's 7 times 8, right?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So what will happen here is 7 times 8 definitely gives us 56, but it's a negative, so we've got to figure out where to put the negative. And 7 plus 8 doesn't quite work, but if one of them's negative...
Negative 8?
Yeah, so if the 8's negative, 7 plus negative 8 gives us negative 1. 7 times negative 8 gives us 56. So now we can go right into the factored form. We can go n and n, so that's our first term, and we have a negative 8 in one of the brackets, positive 7 in the other, is equal to 0. Okay, and now what this means, if you remember from factoring, is think of this like a term times a term equals 0. Well, in order to multiply and get 0, one of these has to be 0. So we split the equation from here, and we set each of them equal to 0, and we're going to get more than one answer. N minus 8 is equal to 0, and n plus 7 is equal to 0. So the possibilities for n are n could be the number 8, or n could be the number negative 7.
Okay.
Okay. So a lot of work in there. You have to simplify a factorial, and then you got to go through a factoring process, which you've learned in previous years.